What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of the Nerdwide podcast. You video watchers and creepers, we are still down our camera. Chris is still having a back flare up as well. So it's just, just a podcast, and which is exactly what we are. This is the Nerdwide podcast. We talk about TVs and movies and all things nerdy. This time we've got a big TV episode for you with 2 episodes of Agatha, which is the finale, 2 episodes of The Penguin, which is the penultimate, is the ending on that one, and then 2 episodes of Superman and Lois, their final season. But before we get there, this is the Nerdwide Podcast, episode 166. I'm your host, Tyler Haynes, with my good friend and co-host, Chris Rivers.
Hola.
Chris, I've missed you. These past couple of weeks and weekends have just been a little rough and busy beyond imagination, I feel like.
Yeah.
And now we don't even get to see each other's faces. It just adds a whole, issue into it. Hopefully this weekend we get to see face to face, though.
Hopefully. We'll see.
So, but it should be fun.
We also had we had an election while we were in between episodes. And...
Yeah. There's a lot of world events happening. Steelers are 7-2 for the first time in a couple years.
Yeah.
Looking like some Super Bowl contenders. Meanwhile, the Titans are the Titans. They're 2-8 now, I think, as of tonight. So
Titans are going for that first pick in the draft.
Yeah, they're making their way. Quick housekeeping, because I'm really excited to talk to Chris and you guys about all of these episodes, particularly Agatha and the Penguin. Superman and Lois has been great, and we finally get a character we've been talking about for a while being on this season. So I can't wait to hear what Chris's thoughts are on that. But before we get there, we do have some housekeeping. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcasting service of your choice or our YouTube channel. If you enjoy a show, make sure you leave us a thumbs up on YouTube or give us a good rating on whatever podcasting service and app you do use. If you don't enjoy what you see or hear, make sure you leave us a comment and let us know how we can improve the show. We can't improve if we don't know what's broken, which we're very aware about our cameras, though. So it's in discussions and in talks, and I'll get it fixed with hopefully a whole new redo. I got some stuff I want to show Chris, so it should be exciting times. But have you watched any other TV show?
No, not really,
no. We have been doing our Modern Family not rewatch, but our first time watching it. A lot of football. Basketball is also back on. But there is a new TV show coming out this week called St. Dennis Medical, which is one of those camera-candid shows like The Office and Parks and Rec, but it's in a hospital. And every single clip I've seen is spot on and so damn funny. We had 2 episodes of it, and I'm really excited to check it out. It comes on NBC at 7 o'clock. There are 2 30-minute episodes coming out. So I got a lot of high hopes for it, and I need a new sitcom to watch, or whatever you want to call those. I guess a comedy.
Mm-hmm.
But you guys aren't here to listen about that. Let's just jump straight into one of, if not the best episode all season of Agatha All Along, which is episode 8. We're going back to Deadline.com by Katie Campione. She's doing this one and the finale's recap. And oh god, I just can't wait to talk about this. So we get to the episode opens back in the cabin from episode 5 with the camera closing in on Alice, who died after Agatha siphoned her power. A hand wistfully brushes her face as she awakens to Rio, aka Death, as we learned last episode. Rio tells Alice it's time to go, pointing to her lifeless body still laying on the floor. Alice asks if that's it? That's all the time I get? She begs Rio for more time, but Rio reminds her that she died protecting someone, as any good protection witch should. She and Rio disappear through the portal together. Meanwhile, Jen is panicked as she bangs on the door leading to their last trial, where Lilia has just sacrificed herself after the tarot card reading, saving them from the Salem 7, which I guess all of the Salem 7 died, because we didn't hear or say anything about any of the other ones. Because I could have sworn 2 were still left alive, but
we never saw him land on the swords,
right?
So
just makes you think.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Billy is also concerned, but Agatha is a bit preoccupied as she runs into Rio. Your coven is shrinking, Rio taunts. The bodies are really piling up just like you promised. Rio accuses Agatha of distracting her from Billy, who she calls an abomination who is disrupting the sacred balance. Agatha becomes emotional as Rio reminds her that she's walking the road with another woman's son, yelling at her to stop talking. This scene, phenomenally acted from both of these ladies.
Right.
And oh my god, it's just A tier, both of them. And there are in talks, apparently, I don't know if it's just a rumor at this point, but apparently Marvel is having a discussion about doing an Agatha season 2, which I think would be a phenomenal thing. But would you really call it Agatha at that point? Because
I would be okay if she guest starred or co-starred and it was centered around Rio.
Yes. Oh, and her going through different Marvel not properties, but movies and things like that. That would be a lot of fun because she's been there.
I saw a really interesting video where they were noting a lot of the deaths that we've seen across the movie universe, and how the characters always, I don't know if the directors were told to have them do this or not, but the characters always seem to look away from whoever's right in front of them, like they're focusing on someone else. And they said, so Rio has been at all of these. She was there when Tony Stark died. She was there when Thanos was blipped. She was there when all this happened. And we just never knew it. So what if we did see it from her perspective?
Oh, see, that'd even be like a fun what if episode of just going through the deaths of the big thing, which would be a huge spoiler episode, but it'd still be a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah.
Rio quips that nobody has had special treatment like Agatha has, implying that Rio has made sure she has narrowly avoided death thus far, but Agatha disagrees, saying Rio has only ever taken from her. And that's usually your move, right? Rio quips before asking Agatha why she's let the coven believe those things about her, about what she did to her son. Agatha says because the truth is too awful. Back outside the trial door, Jenna is assuring Billy that Lilia wanted to stay behind in order to save them. They then get to discussing Rio as Jed says that the Greed Witch has showed us who she was from the very beginning. So Agatha's ex's death, Billy asks. Jen shrugs. That also makes a lot of sense. They set out in search of Agatha, who is with Rio, now discussing Billy's mission to find Tommy at the end of the road, which Rio calls a violation, and Agatha thinks it's a waste of time. His brother isn't out there, not yet anyway, Rio says, explaining that Billy stole a second life, but his twin has not, and she aims to stop Billy before he does so. Then take him, Agatha says, but then she realizes Rio can't take him, because if he dies, he will simply reincarnate himself again, and she will lose him. He needs to go with her willingly, which Agatha promises to convince him to do only if Rio lets her go. She wants death to stop pursuing her, at least for this time being. And when I die, I don't want to see your face, Agatha says. Rio reluctantly agrees before walking away to a distant spot in the forest where she slices through the air with her knife, leaving a gaping hole as if the forest is a paper backdrop, rather than a practical world, and disappears. Very, very cool scene. I don't think that was CGI. That was probably a green screen. And they said, hey, cut straight through it and walk through. We'll take care of the rest. Because that's exactly what it looked like. And it was very, very, very cool. That was a cool way to use her scythe to travel between, I guess, dimensions. That's the best way to say it.
Yeah.
When Agatha finds Billy and Jen, she overhears the teenager say she'll never be anything more than a covenless witch. Ouch. But Agatha has bigger fish to fry, so she tells them they need to keep moving to the last trial. This trial will involve earth magic, and they no longer have a green witch, so Jen will need to step up again to use her potions knowledge to help them through it. As they're walking, Agatha trips over the shoes they left at the beginning of the road. The road, they realize, is a circle, and the beginning is also the finish line. So how did they get out? Agatha is furious and desperate, insisting that they keep walking. Jen says she doesn't want to endure the road again, to which Agatha responds, fine, you stay here. But as she's walking off, Billy has other plans. He reminds them that they took their shoes off out of respect for the road, which he's entirely lost. He shoves his shoes back on his feet, and boom. Suddenly, he's unzipping himself from a body bag in a circular room. Agatha is there too, and so is Jen, each in their own body bags. Agatha surmises that it's a version of her basement, though it looks entirely different. Jen notices it's illuminated with grow lights, but Agatha wonders how they would grow anything without water or soil. But one of the grow lights burns out, which indicates the countdown has begun. They continue to flicker out one at a time as they brainstorm what to do. In the conversation, it emerges that Agatha is actually the one who bound Jen from using her magic in the first place. Naturally, this pisses her off, even though Agatha insists she didn't know it was Jen before who she performed the spell on. She was merely performing spells for money in the 1920s, and Jen was someone else's target. Jen rips out a piece of Agatha's hair and binds her hands together with her to perform an unbinding ritual. You hold nothing, she repeated over and over again. And just like that, Jen has her magic back. But then, she instantly disappears. The road gave her what she was missing, Agatha explains. She tells Billy, this can end right here, right now. I came for power. You have power. Just juice me up. Billy refuses, believing that he'd be left alone in the room if Agatha were to get what she wanted. So Agatha offers to help him find his brother. She tells him Tommy isn't waiting out there, not in a body at least. She then tells Billy that Rio is trying to prevent him from finding his brother because it would require him to steal a body like Billy did. Agatha tells Billy to sit down and close his eyes, which he obeys. She then has him recall his last moments with Billy. They were 10 years old, living in Westview. He remembers being with his parents, about to fall asleep with Tommy by his side. He can also hear Tommy breathing heavily as he sleeps, and Agatha has Billy breathe to the same rhythm, encouraging him to block out the noise of his mother's world as it collapses. Agatha grabs Billy's head, telling him to find Tommy a place to go. He says he cannot find a place, but Agatha knows that's not true. Too many people die every day for Tommy to not have a body. Finally, he lands on one. A boy who was pushed into a pool as a prank, but he's going to drown. In agony, Billy asks Agatha, am I killing this boy so my brother can live? He screams one final time, but then he disappears. No, Billy, Agatha responds once he's gone. Sometimes boys just die. Oh, wonderful scene.
Yeah.
And very well put together because we were seeing it from the boy's perspective in the pool. And after watching this next episode, which, whatever you guys say about it, we'll talk about it here next. But she says, sometimes boys just die, which has a whole different meaning now that we've seen this next episode.
Right.
So
I did think it was kind of weird that with everything that's gone on, Billy was really quick to trust her to help him. Like, because as far as he knew, she was going to do something to get herself out of there and leave him stranded still.
Right.
So that was a little odd, but
she sits alone in the steel room as the grow lights flicker out one by one. There's only 3 left shining when she opens her locket and takes her son's hair out, rubbing it across her face before she realizes this could be the key to her escape. Out of death, life, she says breathlessly before letting her tears spill onto the hair and burying it in a small patch of soil in the room. Which this isn't true. There was a little dandelion seed.
Yeah.
I don't know why they're saying hair. So she planted the dandelion seed and then cried over it. Just as the last light's flickering out, a dandelion grows out of the soil. The lights all turn on again and the room begins to collapse. Rocks and soil fall on Agatha and she runs to the door screaming for someone to let her out. The door opens and she climbs out of the road and she's back in Westview. She looks up to find Rio sitting atop of her house. The sky is dark and green as the wind blows, Rio cackling. Oh, so good.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that was wonderful. Agatha tries to use her powers, but they are nowhere to be found. I got you the kid out as agreed, Agatha insists, but that wasn't the deal. He was supposed to surrender himself, so Rio is taking Agatha instead. She starts performing earth magic to expel the evil that is Rio, but Rio quickly foils her plan. Between Rio's attacks, Agatha continues to trying to perform magic, but soon Rio has her tied up and unable to move. Just in the nick of time, a flash of blue light blasts Rio to the side, and there's Billy Maximoff, or should we say Wiccan, in his full supersuit, here to save the day. Don't take it all, he says, before blasting Agatha with his powers, and she does it. Once she's got what she needs, and a little bit more admittedly, she's returned to her full glory, and she lets her hold on to Billy's magic go. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful scene. And the CGI, you can tell this is where all the budget went. Because this scene was very well done and very, very, very cool. But this isn't the end of the episode, and it continues to deliver. Rio still wants one of them, which spells a dual brewing. Agatha blasts Billy away, hoping to save him from the crossfire. She goes toe-to-toe with Rio. He makes his way back in time just to save Agatha from a deadly blow, sending Rio flying back. Agatha and Billy have a heart-to-heart where Agatha says they won't be able to evade death. She offers herself up so Billy can live. As Rio returns, though, Billy tells her that he will go with her willingly. Take him, you heard him. The boy has promised, Agatha says to Rio, leaving Billy feeling betrayed and confused. What can I say? I'm a covenantless witch. Billy pleads with Agatha inside his head. Agatha, I know you can hear me. Is this how Nikki died? She stops in her tracks and turns back around, walks over to Rio, and kisses her passionately on the lips. Hot. My brother, who watches this, who is gay, says, "Am I straight now?" He goes, "I get it." I was like, "Yeah, yes." Which this is very cool. I don't know. Let me finish this paragraph, and I want to see if you caught on to this. Rio's magic wraps around Agatha, who floats up into the sky, letting death take her. She gently falls to the ground, and as her body sinks into the ground, daylight emerges over Westview. So, did you catch the parallel? Not really parallel, but the innuendo that she had the kiss of death.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was so cool. And they didn't beat us over the head with it. Because they could easily, Billy could easily say, "Oh my God, it's a kiss of death," kind of thing. I'm glad they didn't do that. Rio tells Billy he's free to go, and he leaves without hesitation after grabbing Agatha's locket off the ground. He walks through Westview, gets in his car, and drives away, reeling from everything that's just happened. Not only that, he's walking through the people of Westview who are still freaking out of what the hell is going on. Why is the sky green, the storm, and everything? It was very cool to everyone watching him because he was very much in a superhero garb. So, very out of place.
Yeah.
He goes back home to Eastview where William's parents are distraught. After freshening up, Billy goes into his room to find several reminders of the road, including a Lorna Wu poster, a figurine of the Wicked Witch of the West, a Ouija board, and more. As he reflects on the journey, he realizes it was me. He hears a chuckle, turns around, screaming at what he finds behind him. And roll credits.
Yeah.
This show should have ended right there. That should have been it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a big cliffhanger kind of person, but this, it should have ended there.
Yeah, considering that what they gave us in 9 was essentially just an epilogue. It was almost like they had these scenes, and they needed to fill a 9th episode, and they said, well, let's just put this stuff together.
This next one, the finale, I feel like should have been a first episode of the next season. I feel like that would have... It's not the biggest, like it's not going to bring in your biggest crowds, but you're going to have your crowds coming from the finale of this, which would have been episode 8, and people want to catch up to it, and then it's a good jumping spot off to what another season could have been, or what Vision Quest is going to be. But we got this, and I was honestly a little pissed at the end of this episode, this next one, because I was like, I don't care anymore. Like, there's nothing that's making me like, oh, I cannot wait 3 more years until Vision Quest or whatever else comes out next. I'm just like, okay. I mean, of course, we're going to watch it and cover it on here. But I'm like, all right. I mean, we're going to wait 4 episodes. I'm not just dying to wait for it to come out. So.
No. And now, I'm sure Agatha turns up probably in the Fantastic Four movie, but she'll be alive because it's set in the 60s. So we'll still get to see the character. I'm sure we're going to see Rio.
Yeah, there's no way we're not seeing Rio anymore.
But this episode, it seemed to be a perfect conclusion to the story. I will say this too. I know we got to mention the Mephisto.
Mm-hmm.
But there's nothing here that makes you think that anything else is coming.
Right.
We didn't get, and I know they can't give us everything that people start rumors about, but we should have gotten something more out of this than what we got.
And this episode this next one doesn't even help anything.
No.
Besides her son, which is fine, but...
Because outside of the segment about her son, and outside of the conversation she and Billy have, you get a scene of Jen clawing herself out of the ground and flying off.
Right, which means we will see her again at some point.
Yeah, but otherwise they wouldn't have given us that.
Right. I don't know. I don't think it was a good way to do it.
And I wonder if they did it that way because it's going to be, what's it going to be, April or May before we get our next movie?
Yeah, and it's is it Thunderbolts? Is that what's next?
I think so.
And
Because see,
then
we're
Fantastic
used
Four after.
we're used to the Disney Plus shows giving us something at the end,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's because during the stretch in prior years they were putting out so many movies that it made sense to give us something to set up the movie or set up the next appearance or whatever.
Give us
And
something to look
now,
forward to.
right, and now they're not. Right,
No.
they only did one movie this year, and it was a hybrid Marvel Fox movie,
Mm-hmm.
um, essentially. And then we're we're going to be getting more films this next year, but they're still backing off of the frequency, which I think is a good thing.
Right.
But I don't know. It was, to me, 8 pretty killer episodes,
Yep. Like
and
in on
then
a
a,
high.
yeah, and then a dud.
Yeah. Well, let's get right into it and talk about it. Episode 8 was titled "Follow Me, My Friend" / "To Glory at the End," suggesting that the road itself was all in Billy's mind. Episode 9, the show's finale, is titled "Maiden Mother Crone." It expands on the notion while also filling in the history of Agatha and her son Nicholas Scratch and what Rio did to make Agatha hate her. So let's get right into it. The finale opens on a lush green expanse of a forest as women vocalize in the background. A hooded woman scurries through the woods in a purple robe. It's 1750, and that woman is Agatha. She's pregnant from the looks of it in labor. She cuts up a lemon against a tree, bites down on it to start the process. She looks up, and Rio, cloaked in green, waits for her at the edge of the lake holding a flower. It cannot be, Agatha says to her. It must be, Rio responds. You do this, and I'll hate you forever, Agatha says, begging Rio to let him live. This harkens back to when Death mentioned that she betrayed a woman she loved, making her her own scar. I can offer only time, Rio says. Agatha asks how much, and Rio disappears. Agatha gives birth to the baby. I spoke no spell. I said no incantation, she says, as she names him Nicholas Scratch, which is what she made from scratch. A fog surrounds Agatha as she cuddles her son in close, and the episode jumps forward a little bit. She's walking up through the woods as he cries when he stumbles upon a group of women singing about a cauldron. Sister, come forth, an older woman asks. Is this little one well? The woman lets Agatha into a circle of stones as the blue veins in them glow yellow. But she gives a look of suspicion to Agatha beforehand. We haven't eaten in days, was Agatha's excuse. Agatha sucks all of their power away. Which, it brings back and forth. I know we talked about a couple episodes ago, is Agatha really the victim here? Can she control her powers? And this episode was pretty much, yes, she can. And even last episode, her cutting herself off from Billy. So kind of answered that a little bit, but we're being reminded that yes, she is the villain, and she is not a good person, which is such a slippery slope, especially when you have Catherine Hahn portraying her so damn well. 6 years later, an older Nicholas sits at the foot of a well. He steals a bell that looks suspiciously like the one Agatha chimes before she and her makeshift coven start to sing. From a witch's stand, lure them to Agatha's cabin while she siphons off their power. Mama, why do you kill witches? He asks. To survive, she tells them, and he asks, could we not stay with the witches and survive with them? Agatha says no, saying he should get used to the feeling of being alone. Walk, walk, walk the road. I walked the windy road. He sings an early version of the Ballad of the Witch's Road. I cannot heal you. I cannot protect you from what's coming, she tells Nicholas when he asks her to make him food one day, knowing that death will return for their boy. Agatha and her son slowly put together the lyrics to the Ballad of the Witch's Road, calling it the Windy Road. Nicholas then performs it. The song as Agatha skulks to the distracted audience. She pays him and encourages others to reward him too. One red-headed witch asks where he came up with the curious song. Nicholas looks ill as he is offered a warm meal. He says, thank you, but no, my mother needs me home. We can kill more witches tomorrow, he says, coughing as dark hits the woods. As they fall asleep singing the song, Nicholas wakes up to Rio with a green flame. Rio holding the torch waiting for them in the dark. She beckons Nicholas, who picks up something off the blanket as he leaves with her. Agatha wakes up to find him dead. I want more time, she sobbed. She buried her boy beneath the stones with a bushel of lavender, singing the song with the new lyrics. I buried my own heart here with you, my child. You must know the way then, a blonde woman tells Agatha, guessing she knows the way of the witch's road according to the ballad. I am in great need, the young woman says after she tells Agatha of the road, offering a prize worth peril to the witches who are brave and true. Might you show me the way, the young woman asks. You inquire in good faith while I shall respond in kind, Agatha says. I know it by heart. First, we must gather a coven. Where's the door? Pathetic, embarrassing, Agatha yells at a group of women she assembles to conjure the rumor in the road. They then attempt to blast her with her magic, which she siphons off all of them, leaving them dead. We then see a montage unfolding as Agatha shows up in different fashions through different time periods. It takes more and more power, finally catching up to when she did it with Alice, Sharon Davis, Jen, and Lilia. She's completely shocked when a door appears, but then she finds out it's Billy, which is crazy because this episode was cool and I would have loved it for a premiere because everything we knew about this season was a lie. And it was all Billy making this. He's making the reality just like his mother does. And it was so cool and so deep, and everything makes so much sense this way. And I really just wish we had it as a premiere episode instead of a finale. But,
or if not a premiere, at least midway through.
Right. Just a little flashback of some sort.
Yeah.
Flash forward to Billy from episode 8 saying, "It was me. The evil laughter was indeed Agatha, but she appears as a ghost with gray hair and an outfit that mirrors her in the comics." Very cool. I was wondering when we were getting it. Catherine Hahn still killed it as Ghost Agatha, and it looked just like her from the comics.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I did not sacrifice myself for you. I took a calculated risk, she tells him. I'm still figuring out the rules. Did I make the road? Billy asks her. Unlike your mother, sorry, Wanda, you did something interesting with your power. It was just a con. The song doesn't mean anything. It never did, she tells him. The road wasn't real until you made it real. If I made the road, then that means that Billy concludes, I killed them. Are they all ghosts too? I am a murderer. Agatha says she killed Alice and Lilia chose to die. My mind kills them, he tells Agatha, who says, don't give yourself too much credit. If you actually do the math, you saved a life. Cut to Jen, crawling out from the dirt on the border of Westview near the sign. She flies away with her newly recovered pink powers. I was going to kill them all in my basement on day one, Agatha says. If you want to be a witch, get used to this feeling. I'll never get used to this, Billy says, to which Agatha responds, we'll see. Billy visits Agatha's previously Ralph Boner's all boarded up with her purple mushroom grave still in the backyard. He goes into the basement where the pentagonal door with a blue glow behind it awaits him, as is Agatha's ghost who says he took something from her and she wants it back. Give me what I want and I'll be on my way, she tells Billy, who draws a pentagram of chalk and places some candles around the border, performing analog magic in Agatha's eyes. He looks eerily similar to Wanda as she dreamwalks using similar materials. Suddenly, his black notebook pops out from behind Agatha into his hands. He pulls out her brooch as he finds a page of the spellbook to recite an incantation to banish her. Time to go into the light, or Rio's toxic embrace, or wherever you deserve to spend eternity, he says. I really don't care anymore. You think you just send me into the afterlife with an incantation and a personal item? Agatha asks Billy, who says it worked on Wanda's spell. That wasn't you, Agatha says as she laughs. Okay, maybe you loosened the jar. 5 seconds ago, you were all bent out of shape about killing witches, she says to Billy. You're already dead, he fired back at her. Her translucent form flickers as he repeats the words, why are you still here? Why don't you just die? Billy asks Agatha who shouts, because I can't face him, meaning Nicholas, as Billy deciphers this. She had knocked her brooch to the floor, and she can pick it up, touching it to her chest where it adheres. I'm sure he would forgive you for whatever you did, Billy tells her. See, it's when you say things like that, Agatha says, that you remind me of him. You picked it up, Billy observes, and I'm a quick study, she says. Which this was, like, I guess this is their relationship anyways, and we've seen it throughout the whole season, of he's hating her 1 minute, and then perfectly cool with everything she's ever done the next.
Right.
And we've seen it like 2 or 3 times this whole season. And it's exactly what happened here. The flip is what irked me too, because when we got done with the 1750 stuff, I was like, okay, we really didn't need that. But we're going to get some cool stuff happen here at the end. But no. I mean, we're almost done here. So Billy says maybe being a ghost suits her. Spirit as my guide, to which Agatha says, we can make a good team, you and me. Coven 2, Billy says as a tear rolls down his face. They then both realize they tend to kill their own Coven members. Billy looks to the floor and pulls up the hex he created, labeling the stone tile of the floor with the names Sharon Davis, Alice Wu Gulliver, and Lilia Caldero in the center of the pentagram. One door closes, Agatha says, and another opens. And Billy finishes her sentence, and a staircase up into the light opens. Then Agatha looks over and says, let's go find Tommy.
Yeah.
Eh.
Yeah.
I mean, I just, like we said before we start talking about this episode, it really could have ended with that, with episode 8. But
I felt like the perfect spot for the Nicholas stuff would have been, um, what was it? Was it episode 4 where he cries out
I think so.
when I think it's when she's stealing Alice's power.
Yeah.
It would have been great the next episode to have gotten the Nicholas Scratchback story then.
Yeah.
Drop it in to kind of start things, and then because I think that next episode was a short one anyway. It was right where they were back on the road, and Billy buries all of them.
Right.
Right.
And they just ended very quickly. It's like a 20-minute episode.
Yeah. So they easily could have tacked that on there.
Yeah. But I mean,
fit better.
Great show, minus that last episode. The fight at the end of episode 8 was very well done, very cool. Agatha getting the kiss of death was badass. The Billy coming in his full Wiccan gear, which the writer said that the suit part of it is the same material they use for Vision's suit, and the cape is from the same material of Wanda's Scarlet Witch stuff. Which, I mean, that is badass to include stuff like that. Like, the makeup department, killed it the whole season.
Right.
And sure enough, making his suit with both of his parents is so cool. I cannot wait to see what happens in Vision Quest, I guess, is the next time we potentially going to see these characters. Which, or at least Billy, at least. Agatha, I could see a Fantastic Four. But I'm curious to see when we see Death again, too, though. So
Yeah, I don't know where Billy would fit unless
it's like a Young Avengers or something. Because I mean, they're still setting that up.
He could show up in a post-credit scene.
Yep. Hadn't found Tommy yet, but still, it's his main goal. And he's the only one that can see Agatha or something like that.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think if I doubt they would do Young Avengers in a post-credit.
Well, listen, they need to hurry up because they're not going to be young anymore.
I bet it's going to be Young Avengers post-credit scene for Thunderbolts.
Oh, yeah, yeah. That would be awesome.
You get one or two of them. Maybe we get Haley Steinfeld as Hawkeye.
Yeah, because I mean, it looks like Kamala Khan's
maybe
the one going through recruiting like Nick Fury did. But I mean, who would she grab out of the Thunderbolts though? Unless they introduce a young person.
Well, I'm wondering if one or two of the new or Young Avengers is in the Thunderbolts movie. Because they've got a couple members of that I don't think long term are going to be villains.
No. Obviously, the Winter Soldier is not going to be.
Right.
Trying to think. Yelena won't be. She's already kind of had her arc, and I think in this episode, this movie coming up, she's going to realize she's being manipulated and take back what's hers, kind of thing. But
I think she'll ultimately become one of the new Avengers.
Yes.
Probably led by Spider-Man, and She-Hulk will be part of that, and so forth. But the Young Avengers could splinter off too as well. So
they need to hurry up and do a Young Avengers movie. We've got enough, I feel like, at this point.
Yeah.
And these people, it's going to be harder and harder to make them look young as the years go by. And it's going to take a lot of people out of it. I mean, I know the MCU's got their plans and know what they're doing, but we got to speed things along here because no one's getting any younger at this point.
Yeah, if they hurry up and launch it, they could set it up so that when you age out of Young Avengers, you join the new Avengers. And so that keeps the character in the universe. They've still got to set up the new X-Men.
Yep. We know nothing about that yet.
Right.
Which is baffling. I mean, we'll see. I mean, I don't know. But yeah, Agatha All Along, a show that I didn't ask for. Extremely glad we got it
Yeah.
because it was very, very, very good. And I can't wait to see her again, her and Rio. Billy, I'm like, okay, I more want to see the mom, Scarlet Witch, more than anything right now because I just don't like where is she at?
Speaking of the mom, did you find it like I know it got him back to his room, but it seems to me like you're only causing that couple more pain
Why?
by going
Why
back.
go back?
Because you're not their son anymore.
No, he comes in his super suit and all bloody and everything, and they just saw what happened in Westview. And so, I mean, I don't know. Yeah. They want us to skip past that fact. All right. Penguin, episode 6. We're going to gamesradar.com by Emily Garbett, and this is for both episodes. Nope. No, I'll talk about the author of the next one. So, it's clear some time has passed since episode 5, as episode 6 opens with snow falling over Gotham. Oz has also got his new underground empire up and running, a lab making the new drug Bliss in the sewers under Crown Point neighborhood. The limited number of mushrooms that survived the fire in episode 5 has now grown and multiplied exponentially, and Oz and his new crew are running a pretty big operation. Oz tells Vic that they're taking care of that neighborhood and his name will live forever. He's also close to making a deal with a rival syndicate, the Triads. Meanwhile, Sal is staying with Sophia, and that pair are both hungry for revenge against Oz, with Sophia egging on Sal. There's no power at Oz's new apartment in Crown Point or the rest of the neighborhood, and the generator is no longer working either, so it looks like a pretty cold winter ahead. Francis is getting increasingly agitated too. He keeps talking about Oz's dead brothers. The bodies of 3 men who were selling Bliss for Oz are found strung up in the streets with missing pinkies, and it's clear this is the work of the Maronis and the Gagattis. Meanwhile, Victor bumps into a Squid, a guy he knows from his old life in Crown Point, and he wants to work with him and Oz. Sophia and Sal break into Oz's old apartment, searching for evidence of a loved one who they can use to hurt him the way he hurt them when he killed Alberto and Taj, and Sophia strikes gold when she finds a pair of women's underwear and a Polaroid of Eve in a drawer in Oz's bedroom. Back in Crown Point, Frances is really struggling with hallucinations. She tells Oz that she's worried about losing her dignity, and Oz helps her dress up and put her makeup and jewelry on. Later, Oz corners a councilman in a parking lot on his way home and does some pretty nasty stuff involving the guy's nose and a pair of pliers while he demands that he sorts out the situation with Crown Point's loud power. Victor meets up with Squid and says they're not looking for anyone else to work with them right now, but offers him some cash instead. Squid gets angry and says Victor can't just pay him off and threatens to tip off the Gagattis and the Maronis. Panicking, Victor turns and shoots Squid in the neck as he dies. Awesome, awesome, awesome scene. I'm really impressed with the writing for Victor and the way that, because this is the kid that his dad did not want him hanging around. And now Victor is exponentially worse than Squid at this point. And when he turned and shot him right in his jugular, and he had a slow death, I was like, oh, man. And they did the whole thing with Victor going, why did you should have left me alone thing. And this is so good. I love the writing for Victor in this show.
Yeah, but at the same time, Squid's not exactly an upstanding.
Oh, no, not at all.
So he kind of helped clean up the streets there.
Yeah, I mean, it kept Crown Point safe.
Yeah.
Sophia is hanging around outside the Iceberg Lounge looking for Eve, and Roxy offers to help her for a price. She later arrives at Eve's apartment, and this scene was so tense and so damn good. This show has come and surprised me. It's another show like Agatha where I didn't ask for it, but I'm so damn glad we got it. Because this scene alone was very tense, and I had no idea what Sophia was going to do the entire time. She later arrives at Eve's apartment, but Eve says she was expecting her, and she asks Roxy to send her up. She still believes that Sophia is the hangman and murdered her friends, but Sophia tells her the truth that it was her father and that Oz knew all about it and helped cover up the murders. After their chat, Eve tells Sophia where she could find Oz. You deserve your shot, she tells her. So good, because Oz had been betraying Eve this entire time. Mm-hmm. And so good for her to be like, we're doing this together kind of thing. This is where he's at. Oh, it was wonderful. Oz meets with the Triads and tries to recruit them to take revenge on the Gigantes and the Maronis for the way they've been treated by the family's crime bosses. We learned that it was gang leader Donnie Sullivan's men who were murdered earlier this episode. Oz treats them to a pretty rousing speech before giving them each a beer and making a toast to taking back Gotham. Meanwhile, we see the power come back on in Crown Point, and Francis and Victor have a celebratory dance in the apartment. Unbeknownst to them, though, as Sophia is watching from the doorway with a crowbar in hand. Oh, come on. Like, just that scene alone, right there at the end, chills. And I was like, oh, shit's about to hit the fan here. And which we see in the next episode. It really does. And I want to jump right into it because there's a lot of setup for this next episode was what episode 6 was. So this one's episode 7. This is still on Games Radar, and this is by Faye Watson. The episode begins with the young Oz trying to convince his mom to watch a movie with him, only for his brothers Benny and Jack to interrupt. It's clear Oz doesn't really get along very well with his siblings, but the three of them head out for a day in Gotham, meeting the local gangster Rex along the way as their mom works for him. When the rain starts, the siblings head inside to play flashlight tag in Gotham's underground tunnels. Oz is the first to try to find the others when he has an idea. His brothers are hiding in one of the sewers which he can't reach with his leg, so he locks them inside as it starts filling up with the rainwater. He leaves them there and heads back to home to Frances, where he tells her that his brothers have gone to the movies. The rain continues and the kids still aren't home. They settle in to watch a film themselves while his brothers drown inside of the sewers. One, very cool that she goes, what movie did you say they went to? He said, I think it was Beetlejuice. I was like, that's very cool. But it was chilling. And hearing them beat, they're like, Oz, they were like, help. And we know that he killed his brothers. This whole time we thought the streets claimed them, kind of like gangs and stuff like that. No, it was Oz just being an ass. And it's one of those things that we have to understand that Penguin is a bad dude, just like Agatha. And but we're seeing them from these lights, and you can't help to root for them. But I was like, oh, that sucks.
Well, and we see them going up against people that are even worse than them in ways, right? But like even Sal, who something very important happens with him in this episode, right? But he's more upfront with who he is. Right. Whereas Oz lies, he plays
very deceitful and anything to push his own gain, which we see at the end of this scene where he says, Mom, I'm going to give you the world, I'm going to give you the city kind of thing. And that's been his motivation for decades as he's doing all this. But I don't think she knows that he killed them. I think it might come to fruition soon. If this maybe in the finale episode that comes out tonight. But back in the present day, Oz is back home where he finds out his mother has been kidnapped by Sophia. But before he and Victor can leave and find her, Sal Maroni pays him a visit, beating him up with a golf club. Meanwhile, Sophia, Oz sends Vic out, and that's it. That's the last we see of Vic this episode. Which I'm very curious to see where he fits into everything next.
Yeah, because Oz is looking for him later, and he hasn't been around.
He answers phone call, and it's just going straight to voicemail kind of thing.
He went to get Batman.
Oh, could you imagine?
And then Vic's going to become the this universe's Robin.
Honestly, I'd be okay with that. Atoning for killing a squid. Right. Meanwhile, Sophia confronts Frances about Oz, pressing her for details on his childhood and what led him to become a monster. They're not fast friends by any means, as Frances tells her that she'll dance on her grave before she goes into a vision about her boys. Sal takes Oz to his headquarters where he tells the men that he's now in charge of the operation, taking the drug supply. Oz is, as his mom says, always a few steps ahead though, and he instructs his men to turn on Sal, resulting in a shootout in the sewers. Oz kills Sal, adding to his growing tally this season. I mean, he has taken out all the crime lords though, and doing a better job than Batman. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Sophia heads to visit her young cousin in the Brookside Children's Home, as she's been asking questions about the night Sophia killed her entire family. We see a softer side of Sophia here as she tries to convince the girl it was all an accident before she breaks in tears outside the room. Oz calls her, reveals he's killed Sal, and suggests one final showdown. He offers her the crown to Gotham's underworld if she brings Frances to him. Sophia's not so sure, though, telling Dr. Rush that she wants Oz to suffer for what he's done. The Penguin lays a trap for her in his hideout, but Sophia sends a car loaded with explosives to him instead as she leads his mom to Monroe's. Aptly, Oz survives this explosion by hiding in the sewer where he killed his brothers. In a new flashback, we follow Oz's mom in the days after his brother's deaths. Frances gets Oz to dress up as the pair head to Monroe's for an evening out. On the dance floor, she starts crying as Oz promises they will always look out for her, but it cuts back to the present day, with the gangster waking up in the rubble of the explosions. It's chaos in Gotham, with buildings on fire and people stumbling and injured everywhere. Well, if it ain't the Penguin, I'm glad you made it, the police captain, or a detective, I guess, says as he approaches. Sophia wants to see ya. It's going to be one epic final matchup before a Penguin gets knocked out. So,
Yep.
the one thing I enjoyed about this was Dr. Rush and Frances. Sophia being like, oh, this woman needs help. And who is there is old Dr. Rush. I was like, that's kind of a cool way to get this to happen, which they're going to manipulate and use her anyways, as we saw him trying to do anyways.
It was also a nice bit because we're seeing that even though Sophia is attempting all of these things, even though she's killed her entire family and all this, she still has a heart. She still has sympathy because she understands something's not right with Frances's brain.
Right.
And she has empathy for her.
Man, I love this show, and I really think this finale is going to be a big blowout. You know, I would have put money on Wanda appearing in Agatha All Along, especially the finale. But there's no way we'll see like a glimpse or a hint or something of Batman. This other stuff, his gang shootouts and everything, I kind of get. He's not around for because he's still trying to clean up the city from the flood, still injured from it kind of thing. But a giant bomb going off in Crown Point, killing, hundreds, as far as we know. There's no way he's not tipped off to this. But I do think it's a good point that you brought up. What if Vic went to go find him?
Yeah.
Kind of in over his head kind of thing. So, I don't know. I mean, this show is just, it's very unpredictable, and shows like this are. And I'm very curious to see what happens. I think Frances will die this episode. I don't know if Sophia will. I would like to think she's still alive for Batman 2 or whatever they're going to call it. Because she's too phenomenal of an actress to not have her still as a warlord. I mean, and
Right.
Does it end with Oz dying at the end of this? I mean, is this the end of Penguin? Which would be kind of different to do because we still hadn't. I mean, we've gotten his story pretty much fully closed at this point, I feel like. But I'm very curious to see what they do with it.
Yeah, it would be different because Penguin and Batman have never really had a lengthy rivalry.
Right.
Right? Like, there's been no hint of a backstory there of any kind. So he's one of Batman's top members of that rogues gallery.
Mm-hmm.
And so you would figure he would stick around. And the great thing about this universe is they can leave him alive, and if Colin Farrell has other projects to do, he could come back in 5 years.
Yeah, man, lock him up in Arkham.
Yeah, he could come back in 5 years and be right back in this universe if they keep it going that long. Because you've got Joker, you've got Freeze, you've got Catwoman, you've got all these other villains that you can create storylines around. In the meantime, they could each get their own show like this.
Mm-hmm. And set them all up. But
Yep.
I don't know what I'm pretty sure James Gunn is sitting back and saying, okay, the Penguin is getting a shit ton of views and clicks and talks and everything else. Do we find a way to bring this Batman universe, the Matt Reeves Batman verse, into the DCU somehow?
I hope not.
Yeah, you have to think that these conversations are happening, albeit probably not long conversations.
I
But
mean,
Because I mean, we're
Matt
getting millions
Reeves.
and millions of views.
I'm about to have a hot take here.
Ooh.
Matt Reeves is what James Gunn wishes he could be.
I could see that.
Because he's been in charge now at DC for what, a year?
Yeah, and we don't have anything yet, which is
We're about to get the animated show.
We're about to get the animated show, which I honestly, Chris, could care less about. I really could care less about the Howling Commandos or whatever they are.
Yeah.
I see that being a huge flop, and as it should be. That should never happen.
We talked about it at the time Gunn went to DC. Part of what helped James Gunn was Kevin Feige ultimately was making the call.
Yep.
He doesn't have anybody to rein him in and guide him. And I don't think he can handle a universe this big.
No.
And I think when you they need to leave Matt Reeves to let him do his own thing. Whatever agreement he's got to have the rights to the characters, let him do what he needs to do. And just accept whatever success that has.
Right.
But I feel like if James Gunn gets involved and tries to fold it into the universe, it's gonna get swallowed up. It's gonna get complicated. It's gonna get messy, and it's gonna lose the appeal.
I'm very curious about the Superman movie. Everything I've seen, I'm really excited about. I'm very curious to see a trailer. I mean, I don't want another flop of a Superman movie. And that's going to be his launching point for the DCU. And it's honestly a make or break for the DCU. If this thing flops, that's it.
What happens if it underperforms?
David Zaslav will fire him. Period.
If it underperforms Matt Reeves' Batman, do they then go to Matt Reeves and say, save this universe?
Right. Do they say, no, you're who we're betting on. James either fired or on very thin ice. We've seen David Zaslav fire for less or not show movies for less. And
yeah,
I mean, Batgirl is. I am still boggled that we still don't have that. Just it's sitting on a shelf somewhere.
I wish they had released that and just not released the Flash.
God, wouldn't that have been something? Have him come back and it's in that, not in the trash movie. Anyways, yeah, Penguin good. We've got the finale coming up this next week, which we'll talk about. But speaking of Superman, we have got Superman and Lois, the final season, episode 5. We're going to ScreenRant.com. This is by Zoe Miskelly for our recap here. Let's see. Superman and Lois episode 5 primarily revolves around providing a closer look at Lex Luthor's life and what led to him to this point, with the episode detailing the abuse he was subject to as a child, his terse marriage and divorce, and Luthor's time with his daughter Elizabeth before he was put in jail. In the present day, though, Clark and Lois decide to try and reunite Lex with Elizabeth, believing this may be the only way to protect the Kent family from Luthor trying to destroy them once again. While Elizabeth and Lex reminisce about their past and genuinely reconnect, especially over Elizabeth's pregnancy, which her father had no idea of due to their lack of contact. Now, Elizabeth demands that Lex leave Lois and the Kents alone in order for her to welcome her back into her life and start anew. Despite this all, Lex refuses to let his grudge drop, resulting in his daughter walking away on him once again and exemplifying his commitment to destroying Lois and Clark's lives. With Jordan taking a step back from using his powers, Jonathan steps up to the plate, episode 5, flying Lois out to meet Elizabeth and being more involved in the antics of the chapter of the story. Unfortunately for him, this increased set of responsibilities coincides with his girlfriend Candace returning to Smallville to come see him, leading to tensions between the two when he has to keep disappearing and then lying about where he's been. The actress got a lot of Botox between the seasons.
Yeah.
And I'm like, God, I don't like it when they do that. I'm not a big fan. Anyways, this comes to a head towards the end of the episode with Candace believing that Jonathan simply didn't want to visit her. Didn't want her to visit as she's aware he's been lying to her this whole time and is unable to think of any other explanation for this. However, pisses me off. Jordan includes Candace in, likely remembering how he had a similar situation with his now ex-girlfriend Sarah, which sees Candace reunite with Jonathan as a result. It's worth noting that Candace doesn't specifically say she knows Clark is Superman and that his brothers have powers, but alludes to it just as much and says Jordan told her everything. So presumably Candace knows the full extent of the Kent family's secrets. Interestingly, this would make Candace the second character in this episode to be revealed to know this info, since one of the brothers' friends also casually references that she's worked out that Clark is Superman from seeing it from the premiere.
So here's the thing. This is like one of the big secrets, right, for Superman.
Mm-hmm.
So it should be a big deal when somebody finds out. And we know from what comes up in the next episode, apparently a lot of people know.
Right. I mean, the whole city knows.
And I'm curious if it's going to come out that Jordan telling Candace, and then she went and told other people.
I mean, we've got, what, 5 more episodes? I think it's 10 episodes to show.
Yeah.
And I'm very curious where we go from here. Because especially in this next episode, everybody knows who Superman is in the town.
They've already established, they got this whole storyline. Jordan's basically a screw up.
Yep.
And if it's revealed that him telling Candace is what led to them being all of them being outed, then
that's not going to help his case at all.
No.
Although this next episode, really well done. But we still got more for this one. There's a lot of exposition here. So Superman revisits his fight via a simulation in the Fortress of Solitude, which leads to the Man of Steel confirming he would only lose again if they fought right now with Doomsday.
This makes a problem with this.
Oh, what you got?
He basically recounted what happened, watched it twice, and then said, "Yeah, there's no way I can beat him."
Yeah, there's just no way. Well, I think it's more so the fact that he realizes every time he kills him, Doomsday just comes back stronger and faster and better.
But then Lois figures it out.
Yep. And I found out the first episode, by the way.
Yeah.
I had the suspicion, and this is the only time she tries to do this. But
yeah.
So I mean, it's par for this show at this point. This show is just, it is what it is, because we get episodes like this, and then we get phenomenal episodes like the next one, which was peak Superman and Lois. Although one of the characters leaving, I could see from a mile away, which we knew that everyone had to do it somehow. This makes things more interesting in terms of how the show will handle Doomsday, since it doesn't currently appear that it's a simple case of Clark learning from the original bout and applying it to a rematch in order to defeat the mutated Bizarro. However, the episode does open up a new way for Doomsday to be canceled out as a threat, although it's very much the opposite of a physical confrontation. Perhaps the most surprising part of this episode comes in some of its later scenes, which sees Lois Lane summon Doomsday to talk to him. Come on.
As you do.
As anybody does. It makes no sense to me. Lois realizes Doomsday is being summoned by a version of the ELT she uses to alert Clark and the boys to needing her help. Well, their help, and it appears to register this as an element of Bizarro's time as his own world. Superman still exists within Doomsday. As such, Lois uses the machine to summon him, and banking on the fact he seems to recognize her, and that when he was in love with this universe's version of Lois also pleads with him to remember who he is and to leave her family alone. This appears to have potentially resonated with this remaining humanity within Doomsday, who then flies away. The closing scene of Superman episode 5, show that Doomsday appears to have not returned to Lexus Base when he disappeared, leaving this particular story thread an especially interesting one.
Yeah, do you think he comes back?
He has to. Somehow, some way, not to kill or hurt Superman, but to help Superman.
Here's what I think they ultimately do. I think this version of Lex Luthor is one that's not going to stop until he's killed. Superman doesn't kill, right?
Right.
I think Doomsday returns and crushes Luthor.
Yeah.
Literally. I think just steps on his head or something.
Right. Please be on that horrible wig we saw all episode. I absolutely baffled that they used the wig. The beard looks fine. Again, we say it, I think, just about every episode. Why is he in jeans and a random leather jacket He's a businessman. He's a genius. The only thing I think of is he wears his after jail, but we see him before jail, and he's in the exact same stuff, just in a terrible wig. I don't get it. I do not understand it. Awesome seeing Elizabeth Henstridge again. And it was crazy because when her and oh god, who plays Luther again? Michael Cudlitz, when they were in the diner, both acting their asses off, I leaned over to Jamie and I said, "It's crazy watching two of the best actors in the show be guest stars."
Yeah.
And Tyler Hoechlin's phenomenal. Bitsy, I feel like her acting this season has been off. Now, I say that, and then we get into episode 6, where everybody was acting their asses off. There was not a bad performance in the entire episode. And I don't know if it was a different director or what happened with it. But the storyline beats hit really well. The acting was spot on. Cinematography was great. And we finally got to see someone leave the show.
Well, I think it had to be a different director, right? Because Elizabeth Henstridge directed this episode. So.
Oh, she directed the 6th episode or the 5th episode?
The episode she was in, she directed.
And so that leads us to episode 6. Or once again on Screen Rant by Zoe Miskelly for this. When Lex Luthor's plan to see himself offer Smallville resident Addie Manning a huge amount of money for her land. I want to double check here. Okay, yeah. Opening with Lex Luthor in a berserk rage, episode 6 quickly underlines the actual impact of Lex choosing his grudge with Lois as Superman over being in his daughter's life, teeing the episode up for some more unhinged acts of malice from the iconic DC villain. Ultimately, however, the story focuses on what's still stopping Luthor from getting his full revenge on the Man of Steel and Lois Lane. Though by doing so, it also shows very clearly just how much danger every single person in Smallville could really be in. When Lex Luthor's plan sees him offer Smallville resident Addie Manning a huge amount more than her land is worth for her to sell it to him, so he could build a new headquarters. That's a very weirdly written sentence, and I apologize. Clark and Lana Lane go to talk to her about not going through with the sale. Interestingly, during the discussion, Addie defers to Clark, telling him that her not taking Lex's huge sum of money is nothing compared to what you have sacrificed, which appears to directly imply she knows Clark is Superman, and that this is what leads to her refusal of the sale. It's awesome, because we didn't really talk about it much last episode, but in the first episode where Clark dies, we see various town people around Smallville, and seeing Clark and the reaction of Lois and the boys to Clark. So Superman dying. And so it's not hard to put 2 and 2 together in this small town of, that's Clark Kent as Superman. Right. And we're seeing this story being spread around, even though all these people are like, oh no, I'll never tell about anybody. Like the one guy that found out was like, no, I'm not going to tell anybody. I forget who he was talking to. But clearly, he's told everybody that will listen. Let's see. Smallville's residents then more collectively stand up against Luthor when he tries to pressure Addie into still going through with the deal, despite Lex offering each person present at the bar to take $10 million if it succeeds. Now, Chris, I don't care if my friend down the road or my neighbor down the road is Superman. One, I'd be like, ma'am, let's make sure this deal goes through, because he was offering boogles and boogles of money to her just for her land. Yeah. But if I'm in that bar, and of course I've been drinking beer, and I'm sitting there playing pool, and he goes, you know what? If this deal goes through, each of you get $10 million. I'm like, hell yeah! But no, I don't know. It shows the values of the people of Smallville. That's all ultimately what this scene is doing.
Yeah, you had the one guy comment. He said, if he wants it this bad, it's not good.
Yep, which is very true, and it just shows how crazy Smallville is, and it's not like America is today. Just a reminder that this is a fictional town and not a real one.
Yeah.
Let's see. While some of this is sure to be simply the moral fiber of the town, who have shown before that they will band together to protect each other, the fact this is in conjunction with more of the Superman and Lois cast, revealing they've also worked out Clark Kent as Superman, does feel particularly notable, suggesting Smallville may be standing up for the hero specifically. Clark spends a considerable portion of this episode concerned with the emergence of gray hair starting to crop up on his head, which troubles him enough that he goes to buy hair dye to conceal these signs of aging. Though this initially seems like a bit of a lighter story to balance out Season 4 and some of its more intense storylines, the importance of this call is made clear by Clark, who explains that he worries Superman is suddenly looking older right now could concern the general public. They don't mention that this is where he runs into Lana Lang, but as he is buying the stuff at the counter clerk knows he's Superman because her heart rate goes up real fast. And I forget what comment she said, but it alluded to Superman, to his alter ego. And It's just very, very well written because that's exactly what would happen. And Clark just kind of noticing it and then brushing it off once Lana Lang gets there because, who wouldn't? It's also worth noting that these gray hairs appeared after the heart transplant replaced Superman's Kryptonian heart with a human one, serving as another sign of Clark's now altered physical setup and how it's affecting him and his body. The suggestion once again that Clark is going through some considerable changes because of his overall ordeal is definitely a pertinent one with the new battle set for the future, especially since Clark and Lex have now already had their first bout. In a move that is something almost directly out of a comic book, Lex tries to have Lana Lang assassinated for her efforts in assuring Addie Manning doesn't sell her property to Luthor. And then when Clark goes to confront him, Luthor reveals he's had the entire road outside of his hotel/house set up to the street lamps could turn to what appears to be red sun energy at his signal. Since Superman is without his powers, the two instead engage in a good old-fashioned street fight set to the... No, I disagree. This song was a horrible choice. If I had to say anything wrong with this episode, it was the music choices. Because this did absolutely nothing for me and did not fit. The author here on Screen Rant said, set to the fitting sound of idols when the lights come on, which the episode is named after. But no, it was not a good song whatsoever. But this fight was awesome. And I loved every second of it. There's just nothing like a good old-fashioned CW rain scene on a street and just a big fight going on between just two powerhouses. And when it's over, and Lex even says to, what's her name at the end of this episode, he goes, he put up more of a fight than I expected out of him, even when he didn't have powers. I was like, yeah. I mean, Superman knows this. I mean, it's one of those things that's happened always in the comics and whatever iteration, that he is still a fighter and a decent human when he doesn't have powers. So, very kind of cool they did that.
Yeah, I do feel like, like I said, this version of Luthor is... A lot of versions of him, he's this genius who has other people do his work for him. This one's... I mean, he's content to kill people. He's content to go out there and just do it himself if he has to.
He's not afraid to get down and dirty.
Yeah, and at some point you figure the only way that you're probably going to stop him is to kill him. That said, Superman subdues him.
Mm-hmm. Almost kills him.
And he leaves him laying in the street, and I'm thinking, why wouldn't you take him to the DOD?
Oh my God, Chris, thank you. Do we not have enough evidence against this guy? And then in this episode, which we'll get to here in a minute, I'm sure, is they're trying to build a case against Luthor again. Yeah. What else do you need? You've got a whole DOD that can vouch and be like, oh no, he was on FaceTime and he, admitted to sitting this monster. Yeah. That killed our general.
Monster. Right. And they're just like, whatever.
Just another day. It makes no sense to me. Oh God, I'm so glad you picked up on that too. It's an entertaining fight and one that effectively works to let the two have a bit of a brawl while justifying why Clark doesn't just immediately win. However, the fight takes something of a turn when Clark's so furious that Lex would try and kill his childhood friend. Okay, let's just say his childhood lover. I'm going to not say friend here. Over his grudge, begins to choke Luthor for an extended period of time, only releasing his grip when he sees Lois and his sons have appeared. Again, if I'm your kids, I'm like, do it, yeah! Finish it. This dude he's killed a grandfather already, killed Clark once, and is still trying to do it and still going after the family. Whatever. Take him to the DOD though. You've already got him subdued.
Well, you could have had Jonathan go in and get carried away, and he could kill him.
Right. And that could have been a whole storyline setting up the future of Superman.
Yeah.
Oh man, I don't get it.
But I have another question, right?
What you got?
Superman's obviously still weak, and I keep wondering, like if you want to try and get back to where you were, because he comments after the fight. Lois's comment about his face. He says, "Well, the sun will come up tomorrow and it'll heal."
Right.
So I'm thinking we've seen him do this. Yeah, we've seen him do it before, where he gets supercharged. If he's worried he's not going to be able to get up, all the way up there and stay because he's not at full strength, Jordan or Jonathan could fly up there with him,
or hell, both of them together and get him close enough. Make it a family effort.
Yeah, and get supercharged. Oh. That should get him back to where he needs to be.
God, there's a lot of writing miscues with this season, and I think it's because of the reduced budget and then the pressure for the timeline, and they have to hit this many episodes, they have to fit the storyline in, and they're just kind of quickly do it. And I really don't blame the writers 100%. I blame the executives at CW for killing one of the best shows they have, because whatever these little other shows they have going on, trash. Anyways, this appears to have knocked the Man of Steel considerably, believing he's shown his nemesis that on some level he's no better than the villain when it comes down to it. Since Lex's goals simply weren't to simply kill the Kent family, but rather destroy all Lois and Clark hold dear, it's entirely possible Lex may have been angling more to have Clark portray his own values and morals as Superman during their conflicts, which makes what exactly his plan is going forward all the more interesting. So I'm curious to see. I mean, that is what Lex does, though, is flips Clark's morals on his head to make him like, you know what, you are just like us. Don't be all high and mighty. Season 4, Superman and Lois, episode 6, sees Jonathan taking to superhero work with a commitment that is commendable, but also considered too intense by everyone in his life. Clark and Lois tell Jonathan he's overworking himself, and he even mentions that he's missing meals in order to be speeding across the world around the clock. This surge of activity partially appears to be simply born out of the excitement Jonathan feels about having powers, but he's also revealed later in the episode that he's trying to make up for his dad still being in recovery, and for Jordan taking a step back from the superhero sphere during this time. Very cool way, that a little bit of a dig, here, but he tells Jordan while they're all in the kitchen, he's like, if you hadn't taken a step back, we could have done this together, and it would cut the time in half, which is a big dig, and honestly the truth. So this is my favorite storyline of this whole episode, was Jonathan being the new Superboy and being everything Jordan can't be or didn't be. And I just think it's very well written how they did it, and I enjoyed it a whole lot.
I thought it was funny too that he goes to get a job at the diner, right? And Sarah's like, "No."
She says, "You can be anything and everything." So, but why would you want to be at a diner? Jordan learning Jonathan is partially making up for him not being an active superhero appears to be what was needed to spur him back into using his powers. With the pair offering to fly their friend Sarah to places she's been looking at, now she's set to study abroad. Given so much on the focus of season 4 is on the brothers' parents and their conflict with Lex Luthor, seeing the two learn how to balance their superhero lives is a promising development and further raises the possibility of them taking over from Superman at the show's ending. They don't talk about this during the break-in, but this is maybe the music, and this is the only one critique I have from this episode. Where was John Henry Irons? They made a point to say they've been dating for a month. Okay, whatever. They also made a point to say, hell, he's at the DOD. But he's also got a super suit that can fly. That's his system in Lana's house.
It wasn't working, though.
Well, because Milton corrupted it. Wouldn't John's AI be like, hey, whoa, something's going on at Lana's house?
I don't know, because Luthor insinuated that he could get around the system.
Yeah. And because that's what he gave that piece of paper to Milton for.
I wonder if they just made it appear as if the system were turned off.
I mean, you would have thought he would have been there because I mean, in a heartbeat, especially Lana Lang. But we've got a little bit left, and it's the final scene of Superman. This episode holds some delightful promise for the future of the show, a particularly kind of threat. Well, hold on, we'll go back. So, this was the last we see of Sarah, right? We're not going to see her anymore.
Well, they took her to the Greek islands. Yep. There were a couple of different spots she was looking at to study abroad, and they took her to one of them. They're coming back, obviously, right. So I would assume she would be brought back because she'll have to file paperwork and everything. And if Luther's going after her mom, I'm sure we'll see her probably. Yeah. There's five episodes?
Yeah, we got 4? Well, after this we got 4.
So, yeah, we'll probably see her in 1 or 2. I'm sure she'll be in the finale.
I'm pretty sure all of them will have to be in the finale, right? In some form or some way.
Yeah.
Including the general. Because, I mean, you can't... It's one of those shows you can't end it, even in the penultimate episode, having all of them in it or something. They've been there since the very beginning. We are relatively 5 years into the making of the show. And granted, it's not 10, 15, 20 years as some other CW shows, but this is still a big family, and it's such a big service for the fans to have them all interact again. Although, Coach Gaines in this episode had me laughing at every single line he was doing, and you could tell the actors were laughing with him too and at his character, especially in the diner when he comes in, and he, like I said, the thing too, he knows they're super.
Right.
He said, "Oh man, this could take us to state championships." He says, "What did he say? Fame, state championships, girls." And Jonathan turns because he heard something. He said, "Oh, I gotta go, coach." And he's like, see, I know I'm gonna talk to you. Girls, it is." And it made me laugh so hard. I love the little comedic beats they put in here, which makes it feel like a Superman and Lois show. But
yeah. And that's what a football coach would do, right?
Correct. I mean, that's exactly what he's thinking about.
Just win.
Right.
Any edge you can get.
So, the final scene of this episode holds some delightful promise for the future of the show, a particular kind of threat Lex Luthor is set to be. With Doomsday having disappeared since Lois' talk with him, and Lex's plans to buy Addie Manning's land and beat Clark in a fight having both failed, Luthor's ally and T's love interest, Amanda McCoy, tells the villain she's committing to help him in the mission to take down Lois' Superman. In fact, she suggests Lex has been going about things the wrong way, and that, quote, "the first thing we need to do is get you a killer suit." Giving this as said regarding Luthor's conflict with Superman, it seems this line sets up the arrival of Lex's war suit, a mechanical suit used in the comics and some adaptations to level the playing field between the human Luthor and his Kryptonian enemy. So,
yeah,
episode 6. And now, listen, I have talked for an hour and 20 minutes.
Have you?
Yeah. But time flies when you're talking about some fun shows.
Let's go for another hour 20.
I mean, I honestly could. I mean, there's so much to talk about. But one of the better episodes of this season, and I hate that.
Mm-hmm.
I hate saying that because, I mean, season 3 and season 2 of this show were just bangers. I mean, all 3 seasons were bangers. Well, sure, we had some lower episodes, but we had some great seasons overall. And this season, is not giving us that. And I hate it. Oh, I hate it so much. I just know it's the writers.
Yeah, I mean, I would say of these 3 shows that we're talking about now, consistency factored in.
Mm-hmm.
The Penguin's the best of the 3.
Every single episode has been. I mean, you could say Agatha has been too, except for that last one, but Penguin has not had an off episode yet. If anything, each episode gets better than the last one. And like, especially with that Sophia episode, good Lord, what a show. And I know the finale tonight's going to be absolutely wonderful, which actually should have dropped 5 minutes ago our time.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's it for our show today. We've got usually we do our TV shows and then a movie, but we're going to save the movie for next week And we're also going to rank our Halloween Horror-thon for 2024, which I'm really excited to do because, one, we get to watch Maxine and talk. Well, we get to talk about Maxine, and finish that trilogy off. But I am really excited to look in and dig deep and see, hey, what was my favorite movie this year? Because, again, we watched some great ones. And classics, I mean, The Thing, honestly, is really high up on my list. And you can't forget about the first of the Maxines that started it all. X, because who doesn't love a horror movie? So, I honestly, I can't wait to talk about it with you next week because I know we're be like middle of November, but I mean, I could do this for a while. I loved it. My favorite event every year, even more than the Oscars movies. But ladies and gentlemen, if you're not caught up on any of our horror-thon stuff, make sure you go back and listen to those episodes. We're going to be talking about all of them, full-on spoilers for all of it, and so we can say, hey, this is our list of our recap and what movies we love the most. I mean, it's going to be fun. It's one of the things I love doing every year, but I just can't wait. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for listening.
Wait a minute.
Oh,
Douche Canoe and Hero.
How can I forget that? Oh my God. Okay. We've got 6 episodes. Let's start with our hero count. Our heroes. Episode 8. Could you say Agatha, which was the penultimate? Could you say Agatha for giving herself up for Death's Kiss?
Yeah.
Billy did Billy things and came back and saved things. There's definitely 0 heroes in the finale. None. Although you could say douche canoe for Agatha for episode.
Definitely. For killing everybody.
Yeah, for over centuries. The Penguin episode 6. That was the. I'm blanking. That was the getting the thing all up and ready. No, that's not the kidnapping. Oh, that's him going to. We don't have a hero at this show, not yet. Tons of douche canoes, but no heroes. So we'll skip down to Superman and Lois, episode 5. I mean, to me, you could say. No, I'm not gonna say Jordan for telling and saving his brother's relationship, his high school sweetheart. I'm not gonna say that. You could say Elizabeth for leaving her father, like just not putting up with that bullshit.
Yeah,
being like,
definitely.
Hey, I'm giving you this ultimatum. This is where I'm at in my life. This is what I need going forward. If you continue to pursue this, we are not going to be part of it. You could say, she's a strong character in herself for realizing this and stepping away. The next one, episode 6, the clear, easy one is Jonathan for doing all of those saves and stepping up. And I feel like that's too easy and on character, really.
You could also say Sarah for saving her mom.
Oh yeah, just because Kyle makes them all have a baseball bat underneath their bed.
Yeah.
That's actually a good one because that might be the last. It could potentially be the last one we see her. So I like that. I'm between Sarah and Agatha for the kiss of death. Is where my mindset's at.
It's both of them's last chance, really, to be.
Yeah, I know that's what's bothering me.
But then Agatha does admit in the last episode that she didn't do it to save Billy. She had her reasons.
Yeah, she gambled with it. Yeah.
Yeah. So
okay,
I think
that's Sarah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go, Sarah.
So Sarah Lang is what I'm gonna put her as. 1 Superman and Lois. All right. So now Douche Canoe, it's real easy to say Agatha for the finale, for all the, hundreds of witches she's killed for power. And it's really easy to say Penguin for episode 7 of killing his brothers.
Yeah.
Just straight up killing his brothers. But if you look at it, that's more of like a crime of passion. And then you've got Agatha's multitude of douchery for killing all of those covens. So, I mean, it's really a toss-up there, too. For me, at least. Superman and Lois, I don't really have a douche canoe.
I mean, there's Luther.
Luther, yeah. You can't get
normal.
over his grudge to be with his daughter.
Yeah, I think that would be the part of it that would make him a contender there. There's not really another one in the batch. Unless Candace ends up being the one that told everybody.
Yeah, just start going around the town. Did you know? I'm with whoever. Agatha's pretty douchey for All for Power. Penguin did it for Crime of Passion, and Luther is all about revenge.
I would say probably. Because Agatha didn't know the people that she did it to.
No. But the thing that's holding me up is the body count.
Right. But Penguin, he kills his brothers.
Yeah, that's rough. I mean, that's a real rough one. And slowly, might I add.
Yeah.
And he knew. We see this little boy look out the window every time. And it's raining hard. He knows. Yeah. I'm down for the Penguin if you are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oswald Cobblepot. Come on, man. I can't believe I almost forgot about that. All right, ladies and gentlemen. That is it for this show. Of course, when Superman and Lois eventually ends this year, that will be it for our douche and hero counts. Which is sad to say. Because, I mean, they'll all be coming from Superman and Lois, though. So, it should be somewhat easy. I say that. But trying to find a douche canoe in that show is kind of hard to find sometimes.
Yeah, definitely.
But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to this episode. Really hope you enjoyed this episode of the Nerdwide Podcast. Don't forget to share on all your favorite social media platforms. And don't forget to rate and review it on whatever podcasting service you do use. Make sure you are subscribed on our YouTube channel. Social media, you can follow the Nerdwide account literally everywhere. If wherever you want us to be. That's a great way to get in touch with us. As well as the podcasting comments sections. Mm-hmm. So, but ladies and gentlemen, as always, that has been this week's episode of the Nerdwide Podcast. And trust me, I cannot wait to talk to you guys next week about our rankings of the Halloween Horathon and see if the Batman shows up in the Penguin. Because if he doesn't, I'm never betting again. But until next time, thank you so much for watching and listening.
Later, guys.